What up, YouTube fam? So I'm gonna cover the fallout from the Qatari strike, the Israeli strikes on Qatar by the basically by the U.S., Britain, and Israel launch missile strikes on their own ally, which tells a lot, right? That they're nothing but these Arabs are nothing but slaves, right? These Arab slaves who claim to be allies of the United States and Israel, well, they got missiles struck by the United States and Israel. Make it make sense. Anyway, let's take a look.
The already flailing efforts to find an end to the war in Gaza and bring Israeli hostages home. Well, CNN's Jeremy Diamond is standing by in Jerusalem. Jeremy, just bring us up to date on what we understand happened on Tuesday, the details of this strike by Israel on a residence here not very far away from where I'm standing today in Doha, which was housing a senior team negotiating for Hamas with the Qataris, who of course are lead mediators here, to try and find an end, a solution, get an agreement for a ceasefire and a hostage deal. What do we understand happened?
Well, the Israeli military carried out this strike using 10 fighter jets, firing directly at these residences where these senior Hamas leaders were believed to be. But it appears, as of now, the evidence is growing that Israel failed in its attempt to assassinate Hamas's senior leaders, including Hamas's chief negotiator, Khalil al-Hayya. Hamas has said that the strike failed, that 5 Hamas members who were there were killed, but none of them were the senior leaders that Israel was targeting with this strike. Israeli officials are also beginning to acknowledge that they are growing increasingly pessimistic that this strike appears to not have struck its targets, not have been successful from the Israeli point of view. But that doesn't change the damage that this strike has already done to the future of the ceasefire and hostage release negotiations, and also, of course, the international fallout that we are continuing to watch about 24 hours after this strike actually took place. Let's talk first about the United States, where we saw that, kind of wishy-washy statement from the White House press secretary suggesting that a strike on Qatar doesn't serve Israeli or U.S. interests, but that a strike on Hamas does. But President Trump then later in the day signaled that he was quite unhappy about this strike, indicating that there was nothing positive about it. And then, of course, we have the Qatari and Hamas's perspective. I mean, even if Israel didn't manage to kill Hamas's chief negotiator, it nonetheless targeted him at a moment when he was sitting down to review this latest American proposal to reach a new ceasefire and hostage.
Right, so they were on the phone with the Israelis, and while on the phone with the Israelis negotiating a peace deal, they launched missile strikes on the negotiators. Does that make sense? And then the U.S. and NATO helped them, right? Because the U.S. has a base in Qatar, right? One of probably the biggest base in the Gulf, Middle East area is in Qatar, Doha. So you're telling me that 7 Israeli jets and a NATO jet came into the airspace of a U.S. base and the U.S. didn't know about it? I mean, how were you protecting your soldiers? So you telling me, what were you, out to lunch? No, they knew. So, which means what? It means that the U.S. helped Israel attack their own allies. The Qatar is supposed to be an ally of Israel, the United States, and NATO. But they have a base there. So you helped another country bomb a place where you keep your own soldiers and your own base. Right? I mean, it's insane. These people are insane. And it also shows you another thing. The U.S. cannot protect you from Israel. Obviously, the bombs that they bombed Qatar with are U.S. bombs. I mean, doesn't make. I mean, this is insane. So you bombing your own ally with your own bombs. Make that shit make sense. You're bombing your own fucking allies with your own bombs. I had to say it again. Because it even sounds crazy to me. Like, I feel like I'm making myself crazy. You can't make this shit up. But it goes to show, what does that go to show? If you're willing to bomb your own allies with your own bombs, knowing it's going to happen, acting like you're negotiating while all this is going on, what does that say about you? Other than the fact that you're evil, right? That you're beyond evil. Like, evil and wicked doesn't really describe, you know, there aren't enough words like evil and wicked to describe what these people are. And, you know, and all their minions, right? Saying evil and wicked is just, I mean, obviously, right? I mean, anybody that would bomb their own allies with their own bombs are horrible people. And just sit there while they know it's going to happen. What does that tell you about them? They can't protect you from Israel, the synagogue of Satan, right? Revelations 2 and 9. They can't protect you from them. Nobody. It shows you, what does that show you? No one in the world, anywhere in the world, is safe from Israel, the Israelis and these Jews. Nobody is safe from them. It doesn't matter if you're in America. And that's the message they want to send, because they want to basically hold a gun to the head of the world and let everybody know that they are in charge. Right? I'm the captain now. Their goal is to threaten the whole world, right? It's like kneecapping a motherfucker in front of you and saying, listen, you don't want to be next. You better do everything I tell you to do. And so that's the goal of this whole thing in Gaza, in Doha, in Iran, in Qatar, whatever, right? The goal is to show the world that, listen, no matter if you're in Qatar, whether you're in the United States, whether you in Iran, whether you in Europe, you know what I'm saying? We'll deal with you, right? It doesn't matter who you are. I mean, because they've killed everybody. They've killed Rachel Corrie. This was a little white girl in Palestine. A little white girl named Rachel Corrie about maybe 10 years ago. They killed her, right? In the West Bank. They'll kill anybody. Doesn't matter. Little white girl, little wasp from America. Anybody. They put a hit on Ralph Bunche back in the day. Right? They tried to kill Ralph Bunche, a black American diplomat. They put a hit on him and wound up killing his co-worker, an Italian general who was working with him on the negotiation team over in Jerusalem. This is back in like 1950, 1955, right? They machine gunned both of them. Well, they machine gunned the car. They thought that Ralph Bunche was in the car. He wasn't. He was sick. And the Italian general went to work that day. He was the only one in the car. And the Israelis machine gunned him. I mean, these people have a history. They'll kill anybody. These people are worldwide terrorists. This is a state-sanctioned worldwide terrorist organization, Nazi terrorist organization, who basically kills their own allies. They'll kill babies. They'll kill their own allies. It just doesn't matter. So you're not safe anywhere in the world. You look at how they co-opted the American government and then had the American government go after their own citizens. Not because it's something they did against the American government, but because they don't agree with the Israeli government, a foreign government. So you're not safe nowhere in the world from them. The problem with that is the Qataris have figured out that nobody's safe. So in the people in the Gulf, when they become afraid enough, they're going to turn around and attack them. But let's hear some more of that.
release deal. So that will impact talks going forward. And then, of course, there are the Qataris themselves. We heard directly from the Qatari Prime Minister yesterday, who was quite visibly upset about Israel having taken this action, making clear that while on the one hand, Qatar will never abandon its historic role as a diplomatic mediator, on the other hand, he acknowledged that it's very difficult to see a viable path forward, at least to the current.
That's not true. What the guy from Qatar said was, he stated that he wanted to get together with the rest of the Arabs in the area and figure out how to militarily deal with Israel. They're trying to downplay that, but let's continue.
Negotiations that were unfolding given this Israeli strike.
And let's just bring our viewers up to date on what we understand to have been happening in the sort of last 48 hours. The Qatari Prime Minister himself in negotiations, discussions with the senior Hamas negotiating team here in Doha on Monday night, late into the night. We then understand the Qatari team, and they're working on this U.S. initiative, a new Trump initiative, which would get all hostages released in the first instance, and then would move on to working through negotiations for an end to this conflict, giving Hamas, frankly, very little sort of iron in the fire on what would happen next. Monday night, these negotiations were going on. We understand the Qatari Prime Minister was putting a lot of pressure on Hamas to respond positively to this initiative. Qatari negotiators, as we understand it, then spent the wee hours of the morning on the phone to senior Israeli negotiators. And the understanding was that by late afternoon on Tuesday, Qatari negotiators would be going back to Hamas to get that response. Again, putting pressure on them to respond positively to this deal. That was supposed to happen late on Tuesday afternoon into the evening. At 3:46, we now know the residence that the Hamas negotiators were staying in was bombed by what Israel describes as a precise strike.
So there you have it. They were on the phone. So while the U.S. and Israel were on the phone with these people, they were bombing them at the same time. How do you negotiate with somebody and tell them you're going to have a negotiation, get them on the phone so you know exactly where they are, you have an idea where they are, and then launch strikes on them, air strikes on them, in a sovereign country who's supposed to be facilitating the peace talks? I mean, just wicked and evil and nasty. And the Arabs are a bunch of slaves. I mean, who in their right mind ever thought that these people would negotiate in good faith? Really. I mean, like, the whole time I've been watching this shit from day one, I knew it was going to end badly. Who in their right mind would trust Israel and the United States? And particularly Donald Trump. I'm just saying, like, if you're an Arab or a black person or, you know, a spick or whatever, who the fuck in their right mind would trust these people? I mean, being black, I know that. I've been, you know, my family, my grandfather fought in the Civil War, World War I, World War II, whatever. I'm ADOS, right? I've been around these motherfuckers for 400 years, me and my people. I already know they can't be trusted, right? But I watch these goofies and shit, and, you know, who give them motherfuckers 100% trust. Like the Qataris and different groups, these Arab slaves, right? These Arab bootlicks. I would never trust an Arab, but why would you trust these people? From day one, I knew they were going to cut their throat. I was just waiting to see, you know, how it unfolded. And now the Israelis are totally out of control. No one can control them, right? Not America, not Europe, not the UN, no one. So what's going to happen next, right? What's the blowback going to be? The blowback is going to be horrible because the Qataris particularly said yesterday, see, they're not telling you this on CNN. They particularly said, listen, we done. We done. There is no such thing as international law. And Israel's probably going to bomb another, Gulf Arab country soon. And so he particularly stated in the interview, and I think I posted it, where he said, we're going to handle this shit ourselves. We already know what that means. Allahu Akbar Kaboom. Everywhere. You already know when they said they're going to handle it themselves, that means the Qataris are probably going, along with a lot of others, the Saudis, we know how they get down, 19 hijackers from 9/11. You already know how they get down. It's going to be a lot of, underhanded shit going on, to say the least. And it's going to go on everywhere, not just in the Middle East. It's going to be Europe, it's going to be America, it's going to be Latin America, it's going to be everywhere. Pretty soon. And they may not say nothing before it pop off openly. It's going to be basically guerrilla warfare, worldwide guerrilla warfare. And you know who behind it. They might say, act like they not, but the Qataris, the Saudis, Hamas, Yemen, Iran, Syrians, the Iraqis, they're going to all get together and agree. They're doing it now. There's a meeting. They're meeting right now in Doha. And they may not, obviously, because they can't all fight. They don't want to all openly fight the U.S. and Israel and NATO. So you already know what it's going to be. It's going to be Allahu Akbar Kaboom on their ass. Everywhere you look, it's going to be some weird shit happening. People getting smoked everywhere. You're like, and they going to mark it up as, somebody mentally ill or something, or whatever, to try to cover it up. But the truth of the matter is, it's going to be, it's going to be all of those groups behind that shit until it gets to a fever pitch, and then it's just going to go, just an open, hot war. But that's the fallout. I'll play a little bit of this before we wrap.
Strike. 6 killed in that strike, 5 from Hamas, albeit relatively low-level operatives, as we understand it, and 1 Qatari security official who was detailed to that property. Qatar hosts Hamas here at the request in the past sort of 15 years by the US administration, because it has this role in mediation, has this opportunity along with the Egyptians to mediate between Hamas and Israel. In return, of course, part of this is a sort of guarantee from the United States that they are safe and secure here. And the Al Udeid base, a huge US base, is here in the...
Again, so the U.S. told them, I'm going to wrap on that they were safe, right? That you would be safe with us. And then the U.S. turned around and helped Israel, U.S. and NATO, turned around and helped them bomb their own ally with their own weapons. Make it make sense. I mean, these people are slaves, but they're not stupid. The Arabs are a bunch of slaves, but they're not totally stupid. And they will jump out the window and crash out. We always, you got a history of knowing that, watching them over the past 30 years. I mean, I don't know, depend unless you're 10 years old. You know they will crash out. It's just a matter of time. Right? It's just a matter of time. And so they hosted a base. They said, well, we'll keep you safe. But then no one can protect them from the Israelis. What does that tell you? Right? It shows you how reckless, dangerous, and out of hand this whole thing is. Not even the U.S. government and NATO can contain Israel at this point. Why is that? Because they're afraid of them. Right? It's sort of like that movie in Batman, that scene in Batman, where Bane put his hand, the man said, I'm in charge, blah, 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 blah. And then Bane, talking loud and greasy, and Bane put his hand on the man's shoulder and said, do you feel in charge? And then he killed the guy. and the guy disappeared after that. And he took over his business. I mean, that's the same situation. You think that the Americans and NATO are in charge, but if you look around, who's really in charge? Who's really calling the shots? Is it Donald Trump? Is it NATO? Or is it somebody or something else? And on that, I'm going to wrap. Keep your head on the swivel. I'll see y'all in the next one.